Well, America, looks like we're getting boots on the ground in Iran. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. No one said it officially, but they are really prepping the soil for this, right? For you non-farmers out there, some guy comes out before you plant, he tests your soil, and he says something like, need more lime, or something like that, and then some truck comes by and it sprays some kind of weird dust on it, and it limes your pasture. They are liming the pasture right now for boots on the ground. We've seen this before. You've seen this before, unless you were just brand new, had your political awakening in the last, I guess, 2 years. You see what's going on here. So let's go through the entire spectrum here. Fall. I'm interested to know where you land on this, because for a lot of people in America, that is sort of their red line. You know, they prefer no war, but if we're going to be bombing people, I guess that's all right if we can get a better result and we don't have to lose a lot of people and don't have to put boots on the ground. It's kind of hard to argue against that. But once boots get on the ground, now, for a lot of people, let's re-ask the question. And I don't mean a handful of advisors that are going to be running around holding iPads standing at the home base. We're talking about guys with guns in combat, probably casualties. Where do you stand on that? So let's start with the pro boots on the ground crowd. The two people that are doing it best, Ben Shapiro did it pretty good. I think Mark Levin did it better. But I'll give you both of their explanations. This is the pro-Iran war, even if it includes boots on the ground.
And also, Americans are not dumb. We don't believe that if you're involved in military activity, you're not going to lose anybody. Because, again, if necessary military activity can only be pursued at zero cost, there's no use in having a military. Literally, the point of a military is to do hard and dangerous things. That's why our military members are heroes. And during Vietnam, the Viet Cong counted on the idea that Americans would get tired, that Americans would get bored. And after a while, they were right. Americans did get tired. After a while, they were right. Americans did want out. We should know that there were 50,000 American dead by that point. In Iraq and Afghanistan, too. Reality is that there is no way to extricate ourselves from this situation right now. There's no way to extricate ourselves from this situation by simply running away. That does not leave Iran in control of the Strait of Hormuz, which means $100 to $150 barrels of oil from here to forever. And here's the thing. Once we get to the end of this, if the Iranian regime falls, energy will become cheap again because the Strait of Hormuz will be free again.
Yeah, that's pretty good. The better explanation, I think, now, Mark Levin, you hear him on WBAP from 5 to 8. This was from his weekend show on Fox News, Life, Liberty, and Levin, where he makes his case for troops on the ground in Iran.
So what the president is doing is monumental in terms of protecting the American people. This is the problem with the argument of the Democrats. This is the problem with the media and so forth. Troops on the ground. He said no troops on the ground. I don't remember that in any campaign speech either. But why would we need troops on the ground? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and we wouldn't need 300,000 of them. It's this uranium, too. We've got to get the uranium. If it cannot be destroyed, if it cannot be altered, we got to get it. You can make dirty bombs, and over time you can still make sophisticated missiles. That's why I'm reading in the paper, we're talking about the 82nd Airborne, we're talking about these various special forces and the various, he's not talking about sending regular army and infantry in by the hundreds of thousands. The men he's talking about, the units he's talking about, they are specialized. And you know what else? I remember from my days in the Reagan administration, many of them are trained for a moment like this, to try and secure enriched uranium. Many have been trained for moments like this.
So let's go all the way to the other end of the spectrum. That is the pro-war side, where it sounds like Ben Shapiro didn't care how many troops it was going to take as long as we got the job done. Mark Levin sounded like he was on board if it was just going to be a specialized small group, not hundreds of thousands of troops. Then you have the far end. Let's go to the other side of the spectrum. And we're going to stay within Team Red. We're not even going to bother with Team Blue because they say everything Trump does is bad, so they're not even worth listening to. I'll play them later, but not for purposes of actually joining the debate here. On the far of the other end, the part of Team Red that is vehemently against this Iran war, I give you Dave Smith.
And so, look, I mean, the idea here that America, after just 25 years of catastrophic failures, launching wars of choice, wars of aggression, lying the American people into it, just slaughtering millions of people and like bankrupting this country and really severely degrading the country with these wars. The idea that we would jump into another war of choice for Israel is just too, like, this is too crazy, man. And especially when it's the administration that really ran on and promised that we want to get out of this game of fighting stupid wars in the Middle East.
Yeah, that was what we were all supporting.
Yeah.
Yep. So there he was on Joe Rogan, and applause. He made it 49 seconds without saying a cuss word. That's might be a record for Dave Smith, which is funny in real life, not funny when you're trying to do a radio show and keep your license. So that's the other end of the spectrum. Now, there's a whole lot of discussion in between, which is where I am. And I think my position most closely lines up with Steve Bannon. You'll hear it in 4 minutes on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. All right, where are you with boots on the ground in Iran? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. Three funny guys come on right before the James Show from 11 to 2. And I played you the extreme ends of the spectrum with the internecine debate of Team Red. And Ben Shapiro is cool with boots on the ground. Doesn't matter what size. Doesn't matter how long it takes, just as long as the job gets done. Mark Levin is okay with it too, but he's not expecting thousands, hundreds of thousands of boots on the ground. He's expecting, a couple of strike forces, maybe some special forces. I don't know, 81st Airborne. I don't know. I don't know these numbers. Not even going to pretend. But I played you the other side as well. Dave Smith, who's more the anti-war libertarian spokesman on this issue, and he's just not cool with war in any form or fashion because we were promised no more wars. So the person I line up with is probably who you line up with, someone somewhere in the middle, right? Are you on either one of those extremes? Because I think most of us are kind of like, well, if we just have to take like that one island and it takes like 14 dudes, how could you argue against that? So I guess technically you're okay with some boots on the ground, because if it's just like a couple dozen guys for 6 weeks, really hard to argue against that. If it's going to be 300,000 guys for the next 25 years, pretty hard to argue for that. So it's really hard to be an extreme on either side. And I'm just trying to parse, even for myself, where we fall in the middle. And I didn't think of this first. I got to give credit to Steve Bannon. I really like this approach where he's like, sure, I'm okay with troops on the ground. If someone else goes first, if Arabs go first, what about the Saudis and Qataris and UAE? And there's a lot of people who are kind of mad at Iran right now because they keep getting hit with missiles from Iran. How about we see some of their special forces go in before the United States and we just go in a supporting role? You know what? I think I'll steal that idea. Here he is.
Let's call them what they are. Let's stop saying boots on the ground. Let's call them combat troops. Young men and women of the United States of America, combat troops inserted into the Persian Gulf, or maybe even the mainland of Persia. We're gonna go back and redo what Alexander the Great did 2,300 years ago. Fine. If we do that, though, I want Arabs at the front. The first wave at Karg Island, send you a MBZ, probably the best ally we got over there. A guy that punches way above his weight, a country punches way above their weight. Fine. Dude, you're all in. Let's go. Shut down Dubai, the pirate cove of exchanging cash, money laundering the Persians' cash. Shut that down now. And let's get MBS. He's another big talker. Talking, we got to destroy this, got to destroy this. No, you got to stand up and destroy this. And maybe get a couple of three of those princes in uniforms. Let's get them over there. Let's get some of the royal families. Qatar royal family. Or you got any kids over there in special forces? Let's line them all up. Let's line them all up and then see how big they're talking.
There you go. Okay. I think I'm closest to that one. Again, my original stance here still stands. If I was president, I wouldn't have done this. Could good things come of it? Sure. Is it a catastrophe? Not so far. Does that mean Trump's literally Hitler? Absolutely not. But I'm really hoping for a quick end to this with as little damage to our troops and our country as possible. And we are now kind of getting to the end of that window. Remember, at the beginning, we were promised 4 to 6 weeks. Well, we're in the fourth week. 800-288-9227. This is Lawrence in Fort Worth on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, Lawrence.
How you doing, man? You know what? It amazes me how stuck on stupid the people in America are. And I'm talking about the people who are these pacifists. I'm talking about these liberals, these Democrats. Everybody that you talk to sign up to put the uniform on, like my son, like my wife, they know one day they might have to put some work in and earn that money. They don't have a problem with going to Iran, kicking Iran up their butt. So why is all these people who are not in the uniform, who ain't got no skin in the game, trying to dictate what Trump and the patriots
Wait, hang on. Lawrence,
uniform?
sorry to interrupt. I think you've told us this before, but I kind of forgot. You have a kid in the military right now?
Yeah, my son is Air Force Security Forces. He's also a Fed.
All right.
And my wife is a veteran,
Wait,
United States Army.
Was that the guy I met in Fort Worth?
Yes, sir.
That's a Whiskey
him.
and Rye?
Little Lawrence.
Yeah.
That's right. That's little Lawrence.
Well, he's not that little.
You know what he say? We talk about him fighting and getting put in harm's way. You know what he say? He say, Daddy, if it's my time to go, then it's my time to go. I'm going to do what's right. He says, this is what he says, and a lot of his colleagues say. If this country go Democrat, they getting out the uniform. Now, what does that tell you? These young men and women know that Trump is doing the right thing, that America finally is on the right track. So all these people who hating about Trump and putting boots on the ground, if that's what it takes to get the job done, then that's what it takes, and that's what we do. We supposed to support them 100%. We back them up 100%. And all these people who hating on the military and hating what Trump do, they can go to hell. I ain't got no use for them. And most Americans don't have no use for them type of people. Because if these boys and girls are in the uniform, we supposed to back them up 100%. 10 toes down. That's all it is. And I, for one, back them up. And you know what? This is one time you can honestly say, if we don't fight them over there, we will be fighting them here. Because Biden let 20 million people into the country. We got sleeper cells here. We got people who want to do us harm. So if we don't put our foot down and do what we got to do, hey, brother, the chicken's going to come home to roost, and it ain't going to be a pretty picture. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Lawrence in Fort Worth, knocking it out of the park again. Hey, Lawrence, the next Parker's Pour, Whiskey and Rye, April 16th, just to let you know.
Hey, I'll be there, and the wife will be there because she's running for president of the UAW Local 276. She's representing 6,000 UAW members. She's
All right.
also now second vice president, but she's running for president. And we're going to have the military at the Union Hall doing recruiting. We're going to have the police at the Union Hall doing recruiting. We support the men and women in blue and the men and women in green. And all these pacifists and these naysayers, like I say, man, they need to get off the block. Go move to Iran. Go move to Iraq. Get the hell out the country and let us live our lives.
All right, round of applause for Lawrence's wife then. There you go. So a lot of the criticism I find kind of shallow because it seems to be centered on, is this going to be good for the Republican Party? No, this is going to be terrible for the GOP in the midterms. It's like, well, I mean, it's not that that's unimportant, but I don't know if you should base your foreign policy on how it's going to play in the next midterms. I'll be playing some of those. Stick around for that. This is Mark in Fort Worth. You're next up on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
James?
Mark.
Hey.
You're on the air. Go.
I just wanted to echo the last caller in that we should be supporting our troops regardless. Once the decision is made, all this political noise should go in the background because for 50 years, Iran has been a threat to U.S. personnel all over the globe. They've killed a lot of them. And finally, we have a president with the cojones to actually do something about it. And they are getting their butt kicked right now.
So you're okay with boots on the ground, right?
I'm more than okay.
How?
I want to go.
What if it's 300,000 troops for 25 years? You still okay with that?
I sincerely doubt.
I know, but what if it was?
I was alive during Vietnam.
Okay,
Vietnam
but Mark, spitball. I'm trying to find your cutoff. What's your cutoff? At what point would you say, okay, that's too much?
Victory is my cutoff.
So what if a million soldiers die? A million American soldiers die? I know that's not going to happen.
No, that's not going to happen.
Okay, but what's your cutoff? What is your cutoff then? Then you'd be comfortable with saying that.
You don't understand. When you go into action...
That's insane to not have a cutoff, Mark. That's insane to not have a cutoff. That means you're not thinking.
I disagree.
Well, Mark, if it got to a million, would that be too much?
No, James.
No, you're willing to sacrifice 1 million American soldiers to overturn and put a new regime in Iran that's friendly?
James, they're not going to need 1 million men.
Well, then it should be. Then you should feel real comfortable saying that.
Well, I am saying it. That's what I'm telling you.
So you would be against it if it cost 1 million troops. Just say yes, and so I can say thank you, and we both look like nice guys.
Okay, James. It's your show.
Well, I
want to be polite.
Well, Mark, do you really have an infinite amount of troops that you would be willing to sacrifice to the cause?
Does, James, but you know what? You got to have the courage to win. It's called courage.
No, you got to have the courage to give me your number. What? Okay. What if it was 100,000 troops? What if we lost 100,000?
That would be twice the number that we lost in Vietnam.
So you'd
That
be
isn't
against
gonna
it?
happen.
Okay, but if it did happen, would you
yeah.
say, okay, you'd be against it? Thank you. Was that so hard,
Yeah,
Mark?
Well, in a way, because it's the defeatist attitude of, looking at the worst case scenario as opposed to trusting.
No, Mark, it's not that. I'm sorry to cut you off. It's not the defeatist attitude. I'm just showing that you have a number and I have a number. And so we're not really that much different. We're just negotiating on the price.
Well, but my point is, regardless, we should be supporting our troops and not putting
Well, we agree
a
with
price
that.
tag or, when they're in harm's way, we're all in, we're behind them, whatever it takes. That's their attitude. We need to mirror their
Right.
courage.
I'm just look, Mark, you don't get to hold that position if you're willing to sacrifice 1 million troops.
Well, I mean, freedom is hard.
Gotcha.
So, if you.
All right. Hey, good stuff. I'm just out of time. Sorry about that. It was a good back and forth. You were great. Mark in Fort Worth, you were fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, sir. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, will this hurt them in the midterms? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. What's your number for boots on the ground in Iran? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Okay, my number is 0, but that's no fun. Where's yours? I kind of like the Steve Bannon idea that if we're going to put boots in the ground, why don't we have the Saudis go first? Or the Israelis go first? Or we'll just have someone else step up. Qatar, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates. You folks in Dubai, you got some commandos to spare. Why does it have to be us? I kind of like that idea. I'm not sure if I even care about the criticism where, well, we can't do this. This is going to kill Trump in the midterms. Well, does that have any effect on whether or not it's the right thing to do? And the answer to that, kind of, like if the American public thinks it's the wrong thing to do, and therefore it has the effect in the midterm, it doesn't really matter in that aspect which one is objectively right. So I don't like the mixing of politics with something as ugly as war, but you really cannot separate the two. It is a political issue now. Look, I'll do a couple of these where the focus is on the midterms. I'll start with Bill Maher.
Here's the thing. The we're going to have midterm elections very soon. Now, here's the stats that are important. 7 in 10 people say tariffs have cost them money. Food is up 2.9% since January. Household debt up 4%. Right. Utilities up 6%. Yeah. Obamacare subsidies cut 22 million people. The Democrats are not going to win this election. The Republicans are going to lose it.
Megyn Kelly, she says this is going to be really bad for the GOP.
And it's happening. I mean, there have been, I think, 15 special elections for these state house races that have been happening over the past year. And the Republicans have not won any of them. They've all gone blue in jurisdictions that were heavily red, that had gone for Donald Trump by 19 points in the latest one down in Florida, or between 11 and 19. I can't remember the specific number in Florida, but I saw the list, and there were many that had gone 19 Republican that have now swung blue. This is a terrible harbinger for things to come in these midterms. There are serious political pundits now predicting the Republicans genuinely may lose the Senate in addition to the House.
All right, and next, Jesse Kelly. No relation to Megyn Kelly. He was a guest on her show. They just happen to have the same last name.
There is a political aspect to every war, not just a military aspect. This isn't an American thing. This is every country ever has a limited amount, a very finite amount of caring for any war, and then they want it to stop. The truth is, Americans do not feel emotionally invested in this. Politically, this is absolute suicide. So again, we can argue all day long. The choice is very, very simple. Is the Iran war worth handing the United States of America's government back over to the gay race communists? Because that is the choice we are currently making.
Okay. Kind of hard to argue with that, but does that make it right or wrong? Lou in Dallas, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. What is your number for boots on the ground in Iran?
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you switched subjects there, but boots on the ground. First of all, I appreciate your show and everything you're saying, trying to keep up with 2 or 3 things moving at the same time. But number one, I reject the premise of the question. Don't jump in that sense. And I'll give you 2 points. One is Trump, I think, has learned. I think America has learned. I think we've all learned. There's a false premise. If you break it, you own it. If you break a country, you own it. If you break Iraq, you own it. If you break Afghanistan, you own it.
Can I say I agree with that? I don't want to interrupt your flow here, but I agree with that so hard. Who says we own it? Yeah.
Do you own it or don't own it?
Yeah, who says we do own it? What if I just want to bomb them and leave? I can do that if I want.
Correct. In the sense, and it is compassionate in the sense of we learned. We went in there and said, hey, we're going to bomb Afghanistan and make it into Sweden.
Yeah, right. Very good. All good points. Okay, your second point.
And the second point is the premise of numbers is because, again, reject the premise. And if you're going to play the game of future projection, dirty bombs, which is one realistic projection, dirty bomb in San Francisco will make it uninhabitable for the next 500 to 1,000 years plus.
Well, that and all the poop. All right.
How many, and Dallas. So if Dallas loses 3 to 5 million, are you willing to use Americans lose, die after? How many Americans have to die before you're willing to put boots on the ground? That's why it's a simplistic.
Yeah, turn it back around.
It's the other part is simply there are many things, and I do like myself. I do like Trump in the sense, and not him personally. I mean, I don't know the man, but the pace of thinking to let things, because I've heard other things like as the Great Britain Empire for a few hundreds of years, somebody has to patrol the seas, and right now that's America.
Yeah.
Why not? Why does not America shut down the Hormuz Strait and just say, look, everybody gets through or nobody gets through?
Ooh, I like that idea too. Hey, you're doing great. I'm just out of time, Lou.
Okay.
I like that idea. Why don't we shut off the Hormuz Straits too? That makes sense. 800-288-9227. What's your number on Boots in the Ground in Iran? Because we're going in, baby. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. What's your number on boots on the ground on Iran? And give me a serious answer. Because I have people who are sending me text messages and Facebook messages, and I don't think they're taking this serious. This is not a real answer. Ed sent me a Facebook message. Yes, infinite number of troops. We have one choice: success. Losing is not an option. What is this, a bumper sticker? Are you making the Juicy Fruit commercial? Of course, losing is an option. And no, we don't have just success as a choice. We could go in there, we could get bogged down, we could stay for 25 years, and then we can hand it back over to the Ayatollahs. That's exactly what we did in Afghanistan. Losing is an option. Losing is always an option in war. Good Lord. Come on, let's actually engage your brain and think. Infinite number of troops. Really? We're just going to fight to the death against Iran? We're just going to keep sending people to the mountains to be slaughtered in ancient Persia to the last man, even if it ends up with killing the entire... That doesn't make any sense. Losing's not an option. Dude, this isn't like a no fear shirt. These are human beings. These are your neighbors' children, sons, daughters, some of them grandsons and granddaughters. But like Cleo, she's a regular caller from Plano. She has a son that is active military right now. She says that she likes the overwhelming force. If we're going to go in with 500,000, get the job done, get out in a few months. Get out as soon as possible. So there's her number of boots on the ground. That doesn't speak for casualties, but I know it's going to be less than 500,000. And so whether you think that's too much or too little, you can at least have a conversation. If you're not willing to throw out a number, infinite amount of troops, then you're not even engaging your brain. You got to do better than that. Back to the phones we go. Mike in Richardson, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, I'll try to engage my brain here. I'm thinking, I think it's all about the uranium. Their negotiators told us that they have uranium and it's up to 60% enriched. So I think at that point, we're obligated to go get it. So how many troops does that take? I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking like 10,000 troops. And we couldn't do that until we have air superior. I can't even say the word. Air
superiority. I think we have that. But
we do now. So now that's going to help with 10,000 troops to go in and get the uranium in those spots and then get out.
Okay. Man, I really like the Steve Bannon idea. I don't know if you heard that earlier in the show where he said I'm okay with troops on the ground, but how about the Saudi commandos go first? How about they go in as a coalition? And it's really hard to argue against that. If we have especially the French and British join in with us, that sounds a whole lot better than us just sending our own sons and daughters to die.
Well, you're saying to die, but I think they need to get the job done. And I think there's some trust issues. I think we should have the uranium.
Well, I'm not hoping they die, but if you're ordering a military operation where you got to go into the mountains of Persia and get the uranium, you have to do that with the assumption that people could die.
Sure, I understand.
Right, and so I wouldn't be hyperbolic.
I don't think Trump's going to let the Saudis take the uranium out of there. I think it's got to be in our hands, and it's got to be brought back to the United States.
Yeah, so I guess you're closer to the Mark Levin camp because he was really concerned about the uranium on his weekend show. Good stuff, Mike. Thank you. That's Mike and Richardson, y'all. This is Russell in Dallas. You're next up on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Russell, go.
It was Dustin, not Russell.
Oh, Dustin. Okay.
Yeah, no worries. Hey, I just really have some issues. Boots on the ground, numbers, quantities, all of that. I feel like those are very unrealistic questions. And certainly, we don't have military backgrounds, strategic mindsets. We don't understand what all that is. So when asking these such broad questions, fishing for an answer and asking us to engage our brain, well, I'm curious, maybe I missed it. I came in late. Did you have a number? I mean,
mine is zero. Mine is zero. I wouldn't have even engaged in this. If I were president, I wouldn't have started the bombing campaign. I wouldn't be in the situation of boots on the ground. So my number is zero.
Understood. So that's fair enough. That's your stance. But my stance, and I think anybody who would remove themselves from pretending to understand what the military requires to do such an operation would really look more at this as in is if there is a number for you, let's say, other than zero or someone other than zero, what happens when we reach that number, but we haven't accomplished anything? Are we just going to bail? What happened whenever they got to a certain acceptable death toll at the Hoover Dam? Did they just stop?
No, but the scenario you're describing is exactly Vietnam. We had too many die, and eventually we got sick of it. And there was the guy that was hanging onto the helicopter. It was the last people leaving Saigon or whatever that is.
I lost my grandfather in Vietnam, and I understand the parallels, but what I don't understand is why we feel like we can quantify and then all of a sudden put a number to what our pain point is. And then the question then becomes, when that pain point is reached, what is the answer after that?
Get out.
Do we just, and no matter what the cause.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Sorry about your grandfather. Appreciate it. You must be younger than me because my dad was in Vietnam. His grandfather died in Vietnam. Yeah. We got younger people listening. All right. 800-288-9227. If you stick with us, you're going to hear a bunch of other people's numbers coming up because the phones are full. I'm James Parker. Again, my number is 0, but I am still optimistic that something good can come from this. I don't think this is a big catastrophe or tragedy or constitutional crisis or tyrant or king or no kings or something. So we can still have a lively discussion about where your number is. Coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Get ready. Here come boots on the ground in Iran. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're listening to The James Show. Oh, I know. So good to see you, too. So there are some people who say infinity troops. They're okay with whatever it takes to get the job done. There are some people like me who say zero. Most people are in the middle. I will say if we are going to do troops on the ground, I like the Steve Bannon idea of can we do a coalition? Or how about maybe the Saudis or some other Arab country goes first?
Let's call them what they are. Let's stop saying boots on the ground. Let's call them combat troops. Young men and women of the United States of America, combat troops inserted into the Persian Gulf, or maybe even the mainland of Persia. We're gonna go back and redo what Alexander the Great did 2,300 years ago. Fine. If we do that, though, I want Arabs at the front. The first wave at Karg Island, send you a MBZ, probably the best ally we got over there. A guy that punches way above his weight, a country punches way above their weight. Fine. Dude, you're all in. Let's go. Shut down Dubai, the pirate cove of exchanging cash, money laundering the Persians' cash. Shut that down now. And let's get MBS. He's another big talker. Talking, we got to destroy this, got to destroy this. No, you got to stand up and destroy this. And maybe get a couple of three of those princes in uniforms. Let's get them over there. Let's get some of the royal families. Qatar royal family. Or you got any kids over there in special forces? Let's line them all up. Let's line them all up and then see how big they're talking.
Okay. You can talk me into that. I'm a no boots on the ground guy, but if we have to do it, I would love to see that. Was that Natasha Owen in the background? She was at CPAC last week. She's a local. I didn't know she was from here. All right, where are you stand on this? Do you have a number of boots on the ground? 800-288-9227. This is James and Flower Mound. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hey, James. I don't mean to jump on the dog pile here, but I really think that the premise of the whole question is just inaccurate. And you're basically tying a condition of whether or not we put boots on the ground to a specified position of defeat. So anyone giving an actual number is just only clarifying or spelling out the condition to which we would encounter defeat or pull out, what's tolerable. We have an all-volunteer.
I think that's a worthy discussion. I think it's an insane premise that we should keep fighting this to the last man to make sure Iran doesn't get a bomb. You're willing to kill everybody. Are you willing to have all Americans just go over there by the millions and just be slaughtered?
I didn't say that.
Well, but listen, you wouldn't be in favor of that scenario, right? Because that is when people say, well, I want to do all war, ultimate war, all out war, just fight it. There is no number, whatever it takes to get the job done. Really? What if it takes millions of people to get the job done? And you can't say, well, I know it's not going to take that. Well, then you shouldn't have any problem saying no. Then I don't want millions of death. But if you don't have any number, that's crazy.
Right. And that's why we have a democratically elected president and leader of the armed forces to make that calculation before they commit to boots on the ground. But once they're on the ground, there is no condition there's not been a war that we've ever fought in our nation's history where you tied a specific condition or loss of life to victory or pulling out or throwing in the towel.
What do you think happened in Vietnam?
You paid a political price in Vietnam for that, and
over the casualties. It wasn't because we were concerned about the well-being of rice paddies in Southeast Asia.
Exactly. And so the public, there's mechanisms in place for this to happen naturally. And if the public feels that it's getting too high, then obviously there'll be a change in leadership.
All right. Now that we've set the table, James, what's your number?
Yep. So you're asking for an expectation of what you think might happen.
No. I'm saying, what level of sacrifice are you willing to accept for this mission?
Well, again, that consideration should have already been on the table here.
I'm sure it was, but I want to know your consideration.
But that's an operationally specific question that only the commanders could know, and you tie it to logistics.
James,
you don't type.
You're allowed to have an opinion on this. We don't have to be experts. Just like we didn't have to be an expert to know the whole mask rules were stupid.
Of course.
We don't have to be a climate scientist to know the whole global warming thing's stupid.
I know, but it still doesn't negate the fact that it's a premise that isn't to be considered when you go to war. That
All right.
you tie a specific number to victory or defeat, and you're really only tying it to a condition of defeat, right? So if you hit this magic number, so you would just basically be telling the enemy, kill this many, and then we would lose.
Kinda, but listen, if you're sending your troops into battle, you know, you're a Roman centurion with your whole legion. If half of them's gone, you don't say, well, we'll just keep fighting until they're all dead. Now, at some point, you would say, that's enough. We're going to pull out and save what we have left. I don't think it's a crazy premise at all. I'm gonna move on. All right, this is Paulette in North Richland Hills. You're next up on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Yes, I hate war. You know, my husband is a war buff, and we've been to Antietam and Gettysburg and all these places.
Cool.
And so I wish there wasn't even a discussion about this. But the fact is, there are countries that are going to be pushing and always want more, always want more, always want more. They can't ever just live and let live. And so now that we've committed this far, whether I don't know whether I agree with what we've done so far, but if everything was true that was believed by President Trump, maybe so. But now that we're this far, I think we have to be really careful not to quit too soon, so that then all the lives that were lost would be lost for nothing. I think that was the big thing in Vietnam, too. My husband was in that era.
The sunken cost fallacy? Yeah.
Yeah, so it was for nothing now. So I don't know. There has to be that delta change. Where is it that we're beginning to lose? Where is it like no longer feasible to continue? Maybe we ought to ask the troops what they feel. They're the ones fighting. Would it be so wrong to take a poll of them and say, do you guys think we can win? Do you want to go on? Do you want to quit? You know, it's their lives.
Well, I remember in the election of 2008 when the Iraq war was hot and heavy and we were having some issues there. The candidate that got the number one amount of donations from soldiers in the theater of war was the libertarian Ron Paul. And so that would be my camp. Yeah.
I think if we stop too soon, there's a point. I don't know a number. It would depend on where we're crossing the line to where we're losing, and we're just throwing more men at nothing.
Yeah.
But if we stop too soon, maybe they're going to be a hornet. It'll be like Pearl Harbor. You know, you've wakened a sleeping giant. And, of course, they've always been awake anyway because they've been trying to destroy us.
All right. We got it, Paulette. You wouldn't have gone in the first place, but now we got to get the job done. I think we all get that. Thank you very much. Good call. Yeah. That is Paulette in North Richland Hills. Okay, coming up next on the James Show, we got to talk about what's going on with locally here. All kinds of crazy stuff. No Kings protest, Dallas City Hall, and is there a new proposal? Don't wreck your car. Just brace yourself. The city of Dallas is talking about spending $250 million for the WNBA, not stadium, practice facility. $250 million for a practice facility for a women's professional basketball team. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Man, Dallas City Hall's even worse than usual these days. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. For most of you, you're thanking God that you don't have to live in this jurisdiction here, but it is the hub of North Texas. And what a dumpster fire. No one documents it better and more entertaining than my next guest, Dallas and Fuego's coming back on the James Show. And there is so much today, Dallas. Well, like, if you were to pick the biggest, weirdest story out of City Hall today, what would you start with? So it sounds like that they knew a year ago, but somehow half of the city council didn't find out until the rest of us found out. When was that? Like October? November. Okay. Okay, so to me and you, we understand how that makes this whole thing corrupt. How do you explain to the person who's just hearing about this for the first time who doesn't know the backstory? Yeah, and now we know it wasn't the Mavs' idea. Oh, that's so fantastic. These people. You know what? I would put in front of that one maybe. I saw the story of we're proposing to spend $250 million on a practice facility for our WNBA team, the girls basketball team. Okay. Okay, that's less crazy, but still crazy. Well, this I didn't know. How do we get to spend all that money on the Texas stadium, the Cowboy Stadium? Yeah. All right. We're talking with Dallas and Fuego. He's the local watchdog. So the protesters did it. We have no kings. The protest kind of ugly around DFW this weekend. So what's next on the agenda for Dallas and Fuego? Absolutely not. All right. You can find his great work online, Dallas and Fuego. He's got good stuff on YouTube and X, and I don't know where else you're at. That's just where I see you. All right. Good stuff. Thank you very much, Dallas and Fuego. Coming up next on The James Show, do you like the idea of spending $250 million for our WNBA team? And I'm still, if you have a hot opinion, I have some feedback in the email chains over what's your number for boots on the ground in Iran. My number's 0, but I can be made to fudge that number under the right circumstances. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Oh, I think the boots on the ground are a done deal. It's just an order of magnitude at this point. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Because I think some people are interpreting this quote from Donald Trump yesterday, late last night, 2 in the morning or whatever it was. He's on Air Force One, so the background noise is horrible. But the question comes out, are you still considering putting boots on the ground in Iran? And if you're new to this whole storyline, you know, we've been bombing the snot out of them for 4 weeks now. We have, 2 Marine Expeditionary Units there, whatever that means. And now we have thousands of Army Rangers headed to the arena. And it sounds like he's going to put boots on the ground. Now, listen, check this out. Are you still putting boots on the ground?
Still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives. We have tremendous numbers of ships over there. We don't need them all because of, the power. Look.
Okay, so a lot of people are interpreting that as, because he said we have lots of alternatives to boots on the ground. So they're saying, oh, well, we may not get boots on the ground. We're probably not going to get boots on the ground. Yeah, we have all these alternatives. That's not how I heard it. What I hear is if the non-boots on the ground are the alternative, he is saying this like the boots on the ground are a given. That's plan A. So that's my takeaway. We're getting boots on the ground. Now it's just how many? How much is it going to take for you to, maybe question your support or think this needs to be dialed back? Reg, Grand Prairie, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Reg.
Listen, I'll gladly answer your question, but answer me one first, please.
Sure.
Do you think it was necessary that we did something to stop them from getting the bomb?
That's a very vague question. Do something?
What I'm saying is, do you think it was absolutely necessary that we prevented them from getting the bomb? They've indicated many times how they would love to use it, especially on Israel.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is that this is not an optional thing. A lot of people approach this, including you, my wife, everybody, that this is an optional thing. And I'm going, this is not an optional thing. They came in bragging about how much they had to Witkoff and Kushner. Early on in the meeting, they said, we were throwing it back. They were saying, we've got 440 kilograms to make 10 bombs. So given their history and what they said they would do, it's not an option. So therefore, you're
disagree. Disagree, and I can stand by that. Hang on a second, Reg.
But that does mean troops. That does mean troops on the ground. It does, because you can't take a country from the air. You've got to get troops on the ground. That's just the way it is.
Okay, so Reg, what is different from this time? We've got to go. They're just months away from a bomb. I have audio of them saying that in 2007. I have audio of them saying that in 2009, 2011, 2012, 2018, and then in the last few months.
I think our intelligence assessments are pretty close. Unless you're trying to apply a Saddam Hussein bragging about things he didn't have to this deal. But we do know that they had these facilities. We do know how far ahead they were and how close they were doing it. And therefore, it's not an option to sit there and say, okay, well, maybe we'll trust that they're not really telling us the truth, or maybe we really got everything. You don't know what that they've got still left in terms of you get troops on the ground and dig it out. In Iraq's case.
Right, but no, listen. Your support is based on a hypothetical that hasn't come to pass. My opposition is based on repeated history of hearing this, and it turns out they were lying to your face when they said they were months away from getting a bomb in Iran back in 2007 and 2009. If they've been lying to my face for 20 years about this, why would I believe them now?
Does the fact that they've got missiles going 2,000 miles now wake you up to the fact that they may have been farther along than you even realized?
No, that doesn't justify it.
What do you want proof when the missile's flying overhead and hitting Israel, one bomb state? They said several times. Remember, is that the answer? Are you going to wait till they actually are doing that before they finally do the situation? Dude, come on. Go ahead.
Well, they haven't had any successful attacks thus far.
Who hasn't had successful attacks?
Iran.
Look, if you want to deny that they were that close to getting a bomb, that is up to you. I tend to believe.
No. It's not up to me. It's proven repeated history. They were proven to be lying in 2007 when they said it. Because do you want me to play you the audio, or you don't really need that, do you? Look, here, John Bolton, 2010. Listen, John Bolton.
Well, Israel's got a problem because once the fuel rods are inserted into the reactor, an attack on the reactor would almost certainly release radiation into the atmosphere, given where Bushehr is located, right on the Persian Gulf, possibly into the water as well. From Israel's point of view, if they were going to do anything militarily about Bushehr, they've only got a few days until the fuel rods are inserted. Their problem is, of course,
Yada, 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 yada. See what I'm saying? I've just been hearing this for too long for them to come back and say, no, they were months away. I don't believe you. And I'm not saying you, Reg. You sound like a nice guy.
No, but I mean, were you saying the same thing about North Korea till they finally proved they actually had it?
Okay, that's a great example, Reg. I was told that we can't allow crazy people like North Korea to get a nuclear weapon. They've had a nuclear weapon for over 10 years. What negative consequences have been visited upon anybody because of that?
The difference being Iran is sponsoring terrorism around the world, around that whole region there. They were already doing this kind of nefarious thing. They flat out said as much as...
Okay. So, Reggie, can you at least understand my position that I have heard that we can't allow North Korea to get a nuclear weapon because, they're the craziest people out there and we're going to get a dirty bomb or whatever it is. And it hadn't happened. And also, they've been telling me Iran is days away from getting a bomb for 20 years and it hasn't happened. So do you at least understand my skepticism?
I understand it, but I think this was warranted this time because I think this is a state that has actually sponsored a bunch of this kind of chaos and terrorism. Unlike North Korea hadn't really done all that. They haven't got a bunch of people around like Hezbollah and Hamas and all these other groups around them that they're sponsoring terrorism through. North Korea is fairly isolated and dependent on China. It's a different situation. Yeah, I would have preferred them not to get the bomb. Don't get me wrong on them as well. They're a rogue nation as well. But this one,
but this is a special one.
If they get it, they're going to use it.
Do you remember 20 years ago when we were told we can't ever let Pakistan get the bomb? They're crazy Muslim fanatic country. They've had a bomb for 15 years. Any negative consequences there?
You got a theocracy in Iran, though. This is a real. They feel that this is the way God's intention. And are you really going to trust that kind of situation? Are you really going to take that chance? Israel's not going to take that chance. They're going to do it anyway.
Absolutely, because the people who didn't go, aren't we glad we didn't go invade North Korea? Wouldn't that have been a big mistake? Aren't we glad we didn't go in and invade Pakistan to make sure they didn't get a bomb? Wouldn't that have been a mistake, knowing what we know now?
Can I just say one thing? Because here's the deal. This is a moot issue.
Why is Iran different?
No. Let me explain.
Go ahead.
It's already begun. So here's the situation that we need to do. You should have done like they did in Iraq. They should have put 200,000 troops in there, fired everybody in the Iraqi army from lieutenant colonel on up, kept all the Ba'athist Party members in the government, running the government just like we did the Nazis. And people used to ask me, when are we getting out of Iraq? I would tell them we're not. We're still in Japan. We're still in Germany. I don't know what they screwed up there then. But if they're going to do this one, they've in for penny for pound. They've already done the action. The action is gone. You can't sit there and say, now it's going on. So now how do you do it? You're going to have to put troops on the ground.
Reg,
all that uranium.
Just out of time. Look, I disagree, but you're doing a great job defending your position there. I appreciate the call. It's good stuff.
Thanks.
Thank you, Reg. All right, coming up, more people, I guess they want to debate here. What is your number for ground troops in Iran? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I think boots on the ground in Iran are a done deal. The question is, how many boots? How long are they going to be there? How many casualties are going to come with those boots? I think that's really going to not only determine whether or not the American public support this, but whether or not it'll crush them in the midterms. By the way, I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And look, it's all hinging on this right here. I think this is the point of no return where this solidifies boots on the ground. This is Trump last night on Air Force One.
Still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives. We have tremendous numbers of ships over there. We don't need them though because of the power. Look.
So yeah, he says, she's asking, are you still doing boots on the ground? He says, we don't need them. We have plenty of alternatives. So that means boots on the ground is now plan A. So it could go bad. We all know what bad looks like. We get bogged down in a war for, decades or whatever. At this point, here's best case scenario. We're going to go in there. We're going to get uranium or whatever we got to do. We're probably going to declare that we've won the war. There'll be something signed. We'll be out of there in weeks. Oil will drop down. The Dow will go back up. Interest rates will probably get cut a couple times between now and then. And the Republicans may look pretty good for the midterms. That's best case scenario. Where are you at on that? Steve, this is Stephen Irving. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hey, James, I want to say this is a little personal for me. My son is in the Army, and he's down in Fort Hood right now, and I get a text from him once a week. We text back and forth, and he's continually telling me, I'm still in Texas, Dad. It's okay. And I'm cool. Well, here's where I stand on this. I am for this. This is way overdue. And if our men are allowed to go over there and use the full force of the military and their might and do what they need to do unrestricted, then hey, whatever it takes at that point. Okay, but if they're going over there and they're fighting a war and they got one hand tied behind their back and they can't shoot until shot at and all these stupid rules, I don't want one soldier over there, not one. If there's a mission to be completed, let our guys go over there and complete it. And I support that 100%.
Yeah. That's what Cleo said earlier. She has a kid who's active duty in the military right now. And if they're going to go over there, send 500,000, send 500,000 soldiers, go wreck shop, get it done quick with overwhelming force and get the hell out.
Yeah. I mean, even General Lee at Appomattox, when he surrendered, he looked at Grant and said, are 100,000 dead not enough? Where Grant was willing to continue the war, General Lee said, enough is enough, and surrendered to save lives. So, if we're going to do it, let's do it. And it's like I told my son. I said, son, there was a great general named Patton, and he said, do not lay your life down for your country. Make the bastard that you're fighting lay his life down for his.
Good stuff. Thank you, Stephen Irving. RL Weatherford, you're next up on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hey, I wouldn't discourage anything the man just said about his son. And I believe that he believes that, and I believe there are a lot of patriotic people in the country. I would consider myself a Christian conservative nationalist, and that's a bad thing to be right now.
Why is that?
However, well, I'm just saying, the majority of the media and the liberals and the socialists and everybody else think that that's the devil incarnate. So I don't care what they think. I never have.
Oh, nationalist isn't a bad word. Neither is Christian nor conservative.
I know,
Okay.
I know, but I'm not a Republican anymore either. And I haven't been for a long time, and I think you hold the same position. But what I was going to say is, other than the military-industrial complex that feeds so many of the people in Washington, D.C. and pads so many pockets and all these types of things, there's another element that nothing is really being talked about except on the religious shows, who also have Trump's ear, who also have the pathetic Lindsey Graham and others like him who always want war. And these people believe that this is God's will as much as the Islams believe that it's Allah's will. And they believe that this whole aspect, and this has been talked, all you got to do is turn on Huckabee or any of the Hagee or any of those people. This is the second coming of Christ coming. And then the Iranians, the mullahs and everything are saying, well, we got to create Holocaust. We got to create, a nuclear war in order to bring Allah back. These people are insane. There is nothing that man can do on the face of the earth. Not any man, not anywhere, at any time in history, that can bring Jesus back. I don't know where these people get this stuff. They get it from Revelations and they pull it out of the Old Testament.
I don't know. I don't think I don't think the powers that be really are doing this to bring Jesus back. They just love any excuse to bomb anybody anywhere because they do it in Ukraine. Okay, go ahead.
If you listen to them, they're. I mean, absolutely. This is all over the media. This is all, and lots of people in Washington believe the same thing, that are of the same ilk. They believe with all their heart that this is a righteous cause. That this is for God. This is garbage.
You just hate the religious aspect of this.
It's perverted, is what it is.
Well, I think they would do better to make the secular case. Like, we shouldn't defend Israel because the Bible said so, or we think that's what Jesus would, be happy with. You make him come back. We should defend Israel because it's the only place in the Middle East where they don't persecute women and gays and all kinds of other minorities. They don't saw people's heads off on the beach and make viral videos of it. They're like, hey, look, we got some Christians, and sawing off their heads. So
I agree.
All right, RL, I'm out of time, bud.
They do commit genocide.
Okay, thank you, RL. 800-288-9227. What is your number on Iran? Look, my number's 0, but I'm not going to get my wishes. I already see boots on the ground as a done deal. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, who wants to watch me get tore up from the floor up over this Iran deal? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Welcome to the James Show, where I'm taking the controversial opinion of I don't want boots on the ground in Iran. Now, I don't, listen, Donald Trump is going to put boots on the ground. I know that. I've already accepted it. It's fine. But can we just have like the real conversation? Because I feel like the Democrats never want to have a real conversation with anything about Trump. Everything he does is bad, orange man bad, evil, Hitler, fascist, whatever. We just saw it with the No Kings weirdos over the weekend. But there's an irrational side in the other direction too, where whatever it takes. No, not whatever it takes. Not if we have to send millions and millions of our sons and daughters over there. What if it collapses our economy? What if it crushes our country? What if our country gets wiped out to existence because we fight to the last man? Now, that makes sense if it's the Revolutionary War. That makes sense if you're being invaded by your neighbors and you're facing complete annihilation. But does that make sense here? No. And I think almost everyone is in a reasonable middle. And I'm not against you. You and I agree in principle on most of this. We just disagree on what the number is. If you can admit you have a number. But let me go back and stress the reason for my skepticism here, because a lot of people, I'm getting some real angry emails over here. I listen to you all the time and I usually agree with you, but you're so wrong on this. You don't understand radical Islam at all. How do I not understand radical Islam? The reason why I push back on this is because of history. And not just because I've been doing this radio show. I would like to think I would have this knowledge if I had had a real job all this time. But I have been told for over 2 decades that Iran is days away, months away, years away from having a nuclear bomb, and they just can't be allowed to have one. Well, they've been wrong every time they said that. And when I say everyone, this is the weird part. It's been Republican administrations. It's been Democrat administrations. It was Bush's administration. It was John Bolton under Bush. I played that in the last segment. It was Leon Panetta under Obama. You had Blinken under Biden. They all, in both the Trump terms, they were all like, yeah, they can't be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
We also learned that Iran is apparently, quote, weeks away from the capacity to develop a nuclear bomb.
A top U.S. official has claimed that Iran has enough fissile material to build a nuclear weapon in about 12 days.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken claims that Iran is only weeks away from a nuke.
For example, they say Iran's breakout time for developing a nuclear weapon will go from 2 to 3 months to at least 1 year.
First of all, the question that raises to me is, how did we get to the point where Iran is 2 months away from a nuclear weapon?
Reports say Iran could be less than a month away from building a nuclear weapon.
In an interview with CBS News, Leon Panetta says that despite efforts to disrupt their nuclear program, the Iranians have reached a point where they can assemble a bomb in a year or potentially less.
The other part of that is, we can't allow Iran to have a bomb. Why not? Because they're going to do something. You can't trust them. They're crazy people. They're a theocracy. They believe, in Islam and not just regular Islam, but the hyper evil part. Okay. That's what you said about Pakistan. They got a bomb. They've had a bomb for, I don't know, what, decade or so? Maybe 2 decades? What negative consequences? North Korea, crazy communist theocracy. They got a bomb. What are the negative consequences? And so I'm trying to have a reasonable discussion because I'm not the person who thinks Trump's literally Hitler, violating the Constitution, or this is an illegal war. He's trying to distract from Epstein or something stupid like that. Just want to have the real discussion here. And actually, I got to give it to you. Y'all done a really good job with that today. Back to the phones we go. Mark in Miso Forney. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James. I'm an Army veteran, 2 deployments to Iraq, 07 and 09. And really, real quick, let me give you a backstory before I give you my answer. So all the listeners know, I didn't realize this till years later, but Iraq became Operation Iraqi Freedom. So we went from weapons of mass destruction to Iraqi freedom. I lost a guy in my platoon who was taking a picture to give a grant to a local store owner. He had 3 daughters back home in Iowa, and he lost his life over that. So, we went to take out weapons of mass destruction and a dictator, and it became holding these people's hands and giving them money for grants. So my answer to that would be 0, unless there's a strong, clear objective on cutting this regime out, getting a bunch of other countries involved in this to stomp out
that whole deal and set some standards over there going forward.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard earlier, I was playing the Steve Bannon audio from one of his podcasts last week, where he said he would be cool with boots on the ground, but how about we let someone else go first? How about the Saudis put boots on the ground first, or some of these other Arab countries? You know, if we go in as part of a coalition, that actually kind of softens my argument against it. It must be, you know, an existential crisis if the community of nations agrees.
Exactly.
All right.
100%.
Well, thank you for your service, Mark and Forney, and I appreciate you listening to the James Show.
Yes.
Anthony and Palmer, you're next up on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Hey, James. So, you know, I'm an old school. I kind of come from the Ron Paul school back in 2012. And initially, my heart says and my gut says 0 boots on the ground. And I don't know that I trust what's going on. But the seasoned conservative in me says, if we can't trust what the administration and the Department of War knows that we don't, then what can we trust at all? And will any, conflict that comes up after this, do we just, not trust any of it?
Yes.
Any of it justifiable?
I know that sounds hard to grasp, but my answer is yes. Don't trust it. It's always. I'm not saying it's always been lies, but it's been lies so much that no, we should never. They're always going to have an excuse to spend more money on their causes. So if you're a defense contractor, they're always going to have an excuse for the next war. If you're in the medical industry, there's always going to be an excuse for the next program or pandemic or Medicare, Medicaid, CHIP, whatever the next thing is. If whatever the expense is, if there's someone to benefit for it, they're going to come up with an excuse to try and spend your money. And they don't care whether it's war or it's college or it's medical care. And you just have to say no to all of it. And you're like, well, that's dumb. Well, no, it's not dumb. That's what the founding fathers did. And there's exceptions. The Barbary Pirates are a great exception. I'm not against using any military force outside America at any time. But my threshold is a lot lower than the modern Republican or Democrat Party.
That makes sense. It just makes me wonder what do we ever trust, and if we question everything till the end of it, then nothing will ever seem justifiable.
Well, no, we're already there, Anthony. That's why I say we need to get rid of the Department of Education. We need to get the government out of housing and urban development and out of the college, get them out of healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, all that, get them out of Social Security. Yeah, that's kind of why I believe what I believe. And if once you believe that, then guess what? You're a libertarian again. So 800-288-9227. Coming up next, James Varney from Real Clear Politics. Boots on the ground on Iran is the topic. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Boy, I'm really catching hell over this Iran thing, aren't I? Dude, Sock 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. You're listening to The James Show. I'm James Parker on your home for Markley Van Camp and Robbins. Look, I'm already not going to get my way, so I'm not winning this argument, so don't feel like you have to come beat me up. I don't want boots on the ground. I wouldn't have even bombed him in the first place. But since I'm not getting my way, I wish the troops well, totally support them. I totally expect them to go through, wreck shop. I had a veteran say that he doesn't like the term send them to die because, we don't send them to die. We send them to go kick butt. All right, I got it. I'm not saying they're a bunch of wusses who are going to go run off and die. But I'm just saying when you send people into theaters of war, they're not going to go over there and hand out Snickers bars to kiddos. There's some of them stolen Kit Kats to kiddos. There's going to be gunfire. There's going to be deaths. And so this isn't just, a regular assignment. You're sending people to their death. And I take that a little more serious just because of that. I'll watch my verbiage. Sorry if you found that to be a deal breaker, but whatever. James Varney from Real Clear Politics is coming back on. Now, James Varney, I was reacting to this Donald Trump clip where he said, I may not do boots on the ground. I have alternatives. What that tells me, Varney, is boots on the ground are kind of the plan A. Because we're not doing total war. We don't really do total war. We're doing this cut the head off the snake. And, one thing I believe Trump really is against the idea of nation building, just planting 100,000 of our sons and daughters there for decades on end. I bet he's against that. But I think even he knew that let's try the bombing. That's probably not going to work, but we'll give it a chance to work. I think they expected to have boots on the ground at some point. They just didn't want to come out saying it because maybe they weren't going to need it. Right. And I'm glad you brought that up because there was this viral protester and I would like to delineate here. I am not this guy. I'm just against
How do you feel about the U.S. going to war with Iran? The U.S. is getting they have used all their interceptor missiles. U.S. empire is taking a massive hit and I think maybe the largest defeat that it's ever seen.
All right, that guy's an idiot. That was March 7th, by the way. No, we're not losing. No, we're not gonna lose. No, Iran's not any kind of threat to us. So that's just silly talk. Do not confuse me with that guy just because I'm against the war. Not you, Varney. You should see my email box. Agreed. Yes. All right, you can find his great work, Real Clear Politics, Real Clear Investigations. It's James Varney. Thank you, sir. All right, do I have time to squeeze in a phone call? I have to play Dead or Alive next and the phones are full. What do you want to... I just kick these people off then. All right, coming up next, we got to play for... I'm sorry, everyone on hold. We got to clear the lines. As soon as we play Dead or Alive, you can call back. But I've got to give away tickets. It's an awesome gift today. Tickets to Kid Rock. He's going to be at Dos Equis Pavilion on May 1st. So if you want to try and win some Kid Rock tickets, call in right now. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. We're going to play Dead or Alive next. Today's category is John's. Not the toilet. People named John. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, now listen. There's nothing more important to your standard of living, your quality of life, than whether or not you're in pain. James Parker here for QC Kinetics. I know I've been there. I've been in pain. I've had sports injuries, and it's just terrible. When you wake up and you're in pain, and you go and you make your coffee in the morning and you're in pain, you go to work and you're in pain, you go to lunch, you're in pain, when you're sitting in traffic, you're in pain. You don't have to live like that. Have you tried QC Kinetics? Maybe you've tried some pills from the vitamin store. Maybe you've tried some over-the-counter stuff. But if you want to take advantage of some high-tech treatments that have worked for thousands in North Texas, go to QC Kinetics, QCkinetics.com. And look, if it works for you and the pain goes away, what would you be willing to pay for that? Yeah, well, QC Kinetics is probably less than that. So give them a call, 972-972-8610. You don't know, this might be the first step into your new pain-free future that you didn't even think was possible. But it starts with you making the call, 972-972-8610, 972-972-8610. Hey, who wants to win Kid Rock tickets? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You're just in time for Dead or Alive. It's going to be a good one today. Man, I do feel appropriately guilty for having to clear the phones. Phones were packed with everyone talking about Iran, but I am not slipping on this awesome prize today. Tickets to Kid Rock. All right, with that, let's jump right into Dead or Alive. Thank you, Mr. Jovi. And thank you for joining us on today's episode of Dead or Alive. Today's tickets, Kid Rock. He's going to be at Dos Equis Pavilion May 1st. Tickets and information for the rest of you at livenation.com. But someone on hold right now is going to win tickets. And I'm going to go through this list of people named John. All you have to do is tell me if they're dead or alive. And whoever's on the phone at the end gets the tickets. What do you say? You start with ladies first? We got a couple of them here. Kim, Fort Worth, you're first up on Dead or Alive. You ready?
Well, here's your first surprise, James.
Dang it. All right. I was trying. Well, I guess I'm stuck with you now, Kim. Is this Ken, K-E-N?
Nope, K-I-M.
Is it short for something?
Nope.
Are you Korean?
Nope.
We'll just leave it at that. We'll just let the mystery linger. All right, Kim in Fort Worth. Number one. We'll start off easy for you. John Lennon, dead or alive?
Dead.
John Cena, dead or alive?
Alive.
That's his little horn thing. John Kennedy, not the senator, the former president, dead or alive?
He's pretty well dead.
Yeah, just keeping you on your toes. Johnny Cash, dead or alive?
Dead.
John Wayne, dead or alive?
Dead.
John Bon Jovi, dead or alive?
Alive.
John Travolta?
Alive.
John Denver?
Dead.
And John Candy?
Dead.
There you go. Kim, Fort Worth, you really ruined it for everybody else. You a big Kid Rock fan?
I wasn't until I saw him the first time. It's like, my God, I got to see this guy again.
When was the first time you saw him?
Last time you gave away tickets last year or about a year and a half ago.
As long as it was more than 90 days ago, well, you're getting to go again. I'll put you on hold, Kim.
Oh.
Okay, cool. Kim in Fort Worth is our big winner. Thank you, everyone else who was on hold for that. Sorry, Kim was so good. And I don't know, did I make it too easy? I know this was John's, and I picked like 15 of the most famous Johns. And look, not all, like one of them was John the Baptist. I'm not putting that on Dead or Alive. I'll put a John Kennedy on there, just see if people are paying attention. But I can't go all the way that old. Hey, I had a great time last week at CPAC. Ken Paxton was one of the keynote speakers on Saturday. And he's ahead in the polls. I've seen a whole smattering of polls. And I think he's going to be your next senator from the state of Texas.
Look, we can win this race. I need your help. I need you all telling every friend you've got, every family member. May 18th through the 22nd is early voting. May 26th is the vote. Get your friends out. I believe this audience can make the difference. So I'm asking for your support. Let's get rid of the guy that represents Washington, and let's put somebody in that represents Texas. God bless and thank you.
And the big news that comes out of CPAC every year is at the end of the conference, they do a straw poll. And this is where you take the temperature on the hardcore of the Republican base. And that's who goes to conferences. It's not the casual, flighty, half-paying attention voter. These are the people that are active enough. They're going to spend some of their own money to go to a conference about their politics. And the winner, no big surprise, J.D. Vance. He is unofficially the front runner for the Republican nomination in 2028. Now, if you're thinking, well, James, 2026, that's 2 years away. No. It's really about 7 months away because the primary season starts right after the midterm elections. We'll be a little bit in a fog over Thanksgiving and Christmas, but you'll hear some people, usually around that time, they start announcing that they're going to be in the running. And then You have 1 year of the primaries before you get to Iowa in January of 2028. And so really in less than a year, we'll be in the presidential election cycle. So this is the last CPAC before that happens. Number 2, Marco Rubio, who was like 15%. And it's not a done deal, but at least you have an idea of where people's minds are at going into the midterm election. Coming up next on The James Show, we'll cover a little bit of the No Kings protest. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, they did it. We don't have a king. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Yeah, we're talking about the No Kings protest. I know you heard about it on the Markley Van Camp and Robbins show that comes on before the James Show. I have a little bit different of a take, but I will confess it's not going to be that different. I just don't understand protesting, period. In fact, I think I heard Scott Robbins saying that. It's like, I've never protested for or against anything in my entire life. And, bro, I got to tell you, me too. I'm there. I don't get it. If I have a problem, with the policy positions or the statecraft of whatever jurisdiction I'm focused on, never has it occurred to me to go make a sign out of a foam core board from Hobby Lobby and go stand next to a street, go stand in a park or go block traffic or stand on a sidewalk or holler at strangers. I don't get that at all. They're like, well, protests are what built this country. I don't know. No, Ben Franklin never had a foam core sign from Hobby Lobby, stood in the middle of the street barking at people and blocking traffic. He never did that. When our founding fathers got ticked, they would write like a strongly worded letter, and if that didn't work, they were shooting. I don't get this protest thing at all. But you've probably seen the viral videos if you're terminally online like me. A lot of people don't know what they were out there for. We're just Trump's bad. And they know that's why they're out there, but they also know that if they say that to someone pointing a camera at them, holding a microphone, that they'll look really stupid. But it is easy to make fun of these people, so let's just go ahead and do the normal making fun of them.
I don't know how all these problems aren't getting fixed. Yeah, I understand. There was like an anti-Elon rally today in the city. I don't know how that didn't get solved. I mean, they had a ton of signs. That's your best plan? Cute sign with glitter glue. Everyone driving by is like, what a bunch of idiots. Dude. Sometimes I honk just to get their attention. Like, bam, bam. It's helping. We're doing it. We're fixing Palestine.
Does it ever work? What are you doing, people? Does someone teach their kids? Like, where do they learn this from? Because I've told my kids, like, if you have a problem with someone, talk to them. You call them up, send them an email, send them a text. If you have a problem with your government, then, maybe you need to elect some different candidates. If you don't like the candidates available, maybe you need to go find one you support and help promote him, or maybe run yourself. Of all the just litany, the list of things that I give my kids to solve their problems, it's never included making some Sharpie sign and hollering at strangers in a public space. Like that, I haven't even thought of that. You have Tim Walz, who was on yesterday talking about how the No Kings protest is a fantastic thing, and Minnesota set the template.
Well, good to see you, Chris. Well, I think it's just to be with my neighbors. I'm grateful to the folks. You saw it, organic leadership on the streets that showed that peaceful protest and resistance, standing up for human rights, constitutional rights, proves to be a very popular thing. And
hang on. All of that was a lie. It's not a homegrown organic thing. You guys have the same signs from town to town. We can see that the same group is paying people to go get the permits in all these cities at all the same time for the same day, for the same hours. We see that you have press releases that you're sending out to media. I'm in the media. I see press releases. We know this isn't organic. We know that there's some planning. It's okay. That doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean you're wrong. But when you're intentionally dishonest that there's planning at all, just all the people just randomly, organically decided to do this on the same day, it's not believable. And if you're basing the beginning of your discussion on a lie, I'm going to be skeptical of the rest of your premise. And so you should be after this. But let's go ahead. Let me start it over here. I'll try not to interrupt this time. It just ticks me off because it's not a peaceful protest. I mean, these are protests that have gotten people killed. These are protests that have gotten people hurt. These are protests that you can go look right now. Go look online. There's people that got their butts kicked at the ICE protest. There was violence at the one here in Dallas. There was a guy in an ICE protester. I don't know if he was just wearing the vest or if he was actually in ICE. He got knocked unconscious by some protesters in Hawaii. So no, it wasn't peaceful people just going out there having a good time, fellowshipping with our friends. This isn't church, bro.
Well, good to see you, Chris. Well, I think it's just to be with my neighbors. I'm grateful to the folks. You saw it, organic leadership on the streets that showed that peaceful protest and resistance, standing up for human rights, constitutional rights, proves to be a very popular thing. And I think Donald Trump, just like so many things, breaks it and moves on. Some of it's buffoonish, Trump Steaks, Trump University, but he sent the federal government, armed agents in here, killed our citizens, did massive damage that will take years to recover from. And I did listen in that opening, which was fantastic, Chris. The one thing Donald Trump said, I agree with. I'll use his line, never forget. We will never forget what happened here, and we're taking action against it. And I think you'll see it very visibly in the No Kings rallies, and grateful to folks across the country, but an understanding that I think Minneapolis and Minnesota provided the template here for pushing back on this guy, and there's work to be done.
Y'all didn't provide the template. Y'all are the worst example of how to protest. Y'all had the worst results on protesting. Yours was the only place where people were getting killed, plural, sir. You had the worst record of how to handle a protest. It just basically everything he came out and said was the exact opposite of the truth. But the No Kings premise is absolutely absurd. Oh, you people don't like authoritarianism? Really? Because you and I cannot forget what life was like, 5-6 years ago? During COVID? That's when we learned who was really the tyrants, who was really concerned about the Constitution. Because there was one party, there was one side of the political aisle that was trying to shut down things and control things and put masks and stickers and rules and glass and plastic everywhere. They were shutting down the parks. They were tearing down volleyball nets. They were covering the basketball hoops. Actually, they took off the basketball hoops, just the rims at the park next to my house when COVID was going on. And we all got a real good look at who the authoritarians are.
Autocracy, authoritarian, dictatorship, Hitlerian. Okay. The claim is that's what the right wants. But, if you're a Republican type, you're looking for control. Okay, so who wants the control? What side wants the control? You claim we want the control. We claim you want the control. Well, here's the good news. We just had a little experiment about 3 to 7 years ago. It was called COVID. We did an experiment. Who wanted control? Who didn't want control? And COVID is just COVID. It doesn't have an R or a D next to it. It's just a thing. So then the question is how did one side react and how did the other side react? Well, I live in a place where they shut the schools, shut the beaches, shut your business, shut funerals, shut visiting Nana, and then they fucking try to force everyone to get an unproven jab, a vaccine of an untested vaccine, force everyone, or you'll get fired from your job or thrown off the fire department. That's what you guys wanted.
Yeah, that sounds like control to me.
That sounds like control. That sounds like authoritarian dictatorship control. You
calling
arrested
for people to lose their jobs.
Yes, you arrested a guy who was paddleboarding in the bay. My friends who own a business 3 miles from here, it's now gated and closed because you shut down outdoor dining, and they defied your control. They stood up. Oh, they stood up. They spoke truth to power, and you fucking sent the feds in and you shut them down. And now they don't have a business they had for 50 years.
Yeah, how many of you lost a job out there? How many of you got kicked out of your school or your program? How many of you lost friends? How many of you lost your business? How many of you lost your favorite restaurant? Don't forget who the real tyrants are. These people with the No King signs. If they weren't letting you go to your grandmother's funeral in 2020, that sign means nothing this weekend. All right, before we get out of here, we're doing one of these giveaways here. If you're a fan of Bush, they're coming to the pavilion at Toyota Music Factory, the band, April 21st. If you want to win some tickets from us, it's a pair of premium seats, VIP merch, an autograph poster, and a VIP photo opportunity with the band. Text the word Bush to 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And I'm the perfect age. I wish I could enter that contest. All right, stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.